My wife's childhood sweetheart and I were both injured and rushed to the hospital at the same time. She hurried over and shouted at the doctor, "Save him first. He's a jewelry designer. His hands are very important. Their injuries are about the same. Do you really want to ruin the future of a jewelry designer?" Despite the doctor's hesitation, she pushed the person into the operating room. "But I'm also a jewelry designer." Ava looked worried, but the person she was worried about was James, not me. My hand hurt excruciatingly, but at this moment, the pain in my heart was 1,000 times worse. I've loved my wife for 8 years, but suddenly I feel like I don't know her anymore. I weakly called her name, but all I got in return was an impatient glance. "What are you shouting for? James is in so much pain, and I don't see you acting like this. You can wait for the operation. You're not going to die anyway." Despite the doctor's hesitation, she pushed the person into the operating room and then unreasonably demanded that the doctor operate on James first. There wasn't just one doctor in the hospital who could perform the surgery. Ava was just so anxious that she lost her composure and said such cruel words that came from the bottom of her heart. My heart felt as if it had been stabbed hard, and the pain made me unable to speak. In fact, Ava was wrong. My injury was much more serious than James's. Although James and I are both jewelry designers, we don't work for the same company. The two companies we work for have recently been collaborating, and we had differences in our design concepts, so we got together to discuss them. When James was using an instrument to polish the materials, he accidentally got caught in the machinery and was squeezed. If I hadn't helped him in time and ended up seriously injuring my own hand, I'm afraid his hand would have been useless. Then Ava wouldn't have had the chance to speak harshly to me here. Because the time was extremely short, James's hand injury wasn't too serious, and because I was so eager to save him, I not only had crush injuries but also cuts. It was clearly much more serious than his injury, just by looking at it. I don't know if Ava only has James in her eyes or if she deliberately ignores me, but no matter which it is, it won't change the feeling of my heart being cut like a knife. The operation didn't take too long. When I came out, I didn't see Ava. I smiled self-deprecatingly. At this moment, she should be by James's side. Although my hand wasn't completely useless, I could no longer hold a paintbrush or operate the instruments. For me, it's no different from being useless. The nurse asked me where my family member was, but I couldn't answer because my wife was accompanying another man. In the evening, Ava finally showed up, looking a bit tired between her brows. I asked, "Where have you been?" I already knew the answer, and I don't know why I had to be so stupid as to ask this question and humiliate myself. Ava frowned slightly and said, "You, double quotes, kindly, where could I have been?" "Of course, I was taking care of James. I heard that you saved him today, but it happened in your company, so you should have been responsible for it. Anyway, when it comes to work, just listen to James. He hasn't been back from abroad for long, so he naturally knows more than you. I can no longer do jewelry redesign with these hands of mine. What's there to talk about work?" Since James came back to the country just a few months ago, her attitude towards me has changed completely. When I first met her, although she was cold and proud, she had never been like this during this period, speaking coldly and with a sarcastic tone, not caring about my feelings at all. I don't understand what's wrong with her. James was abroad for nearly 10 years, and they didn't contact each other during that time. As soon as he came back, did their childhood friendship rekindle. My hand is useless. I can't do jewelry design anymore. I'll resign from my job, I said, looking at her steadily and bitterly. Ava was a bit surprised, and then her expression became indifferent. "If you resign, then resign. Fine, just stay home and recuperate." Well, hearing this, I said, "Ava, aren't you going to say something?" She has always known that jewelry design is my dream. I've mentioned it to her more than once. Moreover, most of our wedding rings and her jewelry were made by me. It's obvious how much I love jewelry design. Now she didn't say a word of comfort, just a casual, "Recuperate." Well, Ava seemed to want to say something but stopped just as she was about to speak. Her phone rang. "Ava, where have you been? My hand is hurting again." Instantly she looked worried and said, "James, are you okay? I'll come right over." After hanging up the phone, I closed my eyes and asked Ava, "Are you really going to leave?" A trace of pity flashed in Ava's eyes, but it disappeared quickly. "Can you stop being so melodramatic? As a grown man, you can find another job if you lose this one. What's with that half-dead look on your face?" She paused and then explained, "I'm just going to check on James. Didn't you hear him say that his wound hurts and he needs someone to be with him? If he's okay, I'll be back right away. Don't I need someone by my side either?" I couldn't help but say, I would never have spoken to her like this before, but now I was eager to know if she still had feelings for me. Even if it was just a little bit, I could forgive her for showing excessive concern and favoritism towards James today. But she just said impatiently, "Aren't you fine? Okay, stop talking about all this nonsense. I'll find a nurse for you. Stop being so long-winded. Are you a man or not?" I had so many things to say, but my throat seemed to be blocked by something, and I couldn't say anything. Seeing that Ava was already contacting a nurse for me, I simply shut up. Anyway, the answer was obvious. Ava didn't care about me at all. Since that was the case, why bother talking more? The person I had loved for 8 years now seemed so unfamiliar. Art was deeply hurt, and the pain made it difficult for me to even breathe before the nurse arrived. Ava couldn't wait to rush to James' side. Looking at her hurrying back, an infinite sense of bitterness welled up in my heart. I asked myself, is she still worthy of my love? Is there any need to continue this marriage? In fact, the answer was already obvious, but even now, I'm still too weak to let go. It's impossible for anyone to let go of a relationship that has lasted nearly 10 years just like that. Until I was discharged from the hospital. Ava never showed up, not even making a phone call. However, I often received messages from James. In the photos and videos he sent, Ava was so gentle and considerate, a side of her that I had never seen before. Looking at the deserted home, I tugged at the corner of my mouth and called her. It took her dozens of seconds to finally answer the phone. Daniel, are you annoying or what? Didn't I find a nurse for you? Why are you calling me? I'm busy. Her tone was undisguisedly annoyed. Yes, she was busy taking care of James and chatting with him. I was almost confused about whose wife she was. She was so busy that she didn't even notice that I had been discharged from the hospital. I smiled self-deprecatingly. Ava, let's talk. Ava was silent for a moment and then said in a deep voice, what's there to talk about? There's nothing to talk about between us. Stop making a fuss. I'll come and see you later. As soon as she finished speaking, she hung up the phone directly. A busy tone came from the receiver, making me feel a bit dazed. After a few minutes, my phone received a message. It was an audio recording sent by James. My fingertips lingered on the screen. My intuition told me that the content inside wasn't something I wanted to hear, but after hesitating for a while, I still chose to open it. Is that Daniel? Ava, you've been with me for too long. He can be unhappy. Ava sneered and said, what right does he have to be unhappy? If you hadn't left, without saying goodbye, back then, I wouldn't have had to find a substitute. James sighed. It's my fault. After all these years, can you forgive me? Anyway, you're already married to him, so you should just live a good life. Besides, he saved me this time. As soon as he finished speaking, Ava immediately retorted. It was only right that he saved you. Is he as capable as you? If you couldn't do jewelry design anymore, I don't know how big a loss that would be. The more I listened, the tighter I clenched my fists. My wound ached faintly, but I didn't feel it at all. I stared fixedly at the phone screen, more serious than ever, as if I could find the possibility that this recording was fake. But I knew it was real. These words had indeed come out of their mouths. James replied with a tone of helplessness and doubting. You really are something. Speak more gently. He's about to lose his job. Ava snorted and laughed. No matter how I speak, he won't get angry. Besides, I'll only be gentle with you. The recording ended. The pain brought by this conversation, which was like torture to me, didn't end. Every word Ava said was like a sharp knife stabbing precisely at my heart, drawing blood with each stab. I couldn't help but touch my chest, and tears fell uncontrollably. My body also trembled slightly. It turned out that her initial initiative to get close to me, often looking at me in a trance, and her favorite expression when I was drawing design plans all had their reasons. It turned out that she really didn't love me. I would rather she had changed her heart than treat me as a substitute. This way, it proved that she had never loved me from the beginning to the end. My sincerity and my love were a complete joke. Thinking of this, I laughed while crying, but the tears kept flowing. I knew that I must have looked extremely ugly at this moment, but I also knew in my heart that after crying and laughing, it was the end between her and me. It was time for this farce to end. In the evening, after getting my emotions in order, I sent Ava a text message with just 3 short words: divorce. There was no doubt that this message disappeared without a trace and received no reply, but I didn't have much emotional fluctuation. I just calmly asked the lawyer to draw up the divorce agreement. As soon as she came back, she could sign it immediately. To my surprise, Ava came back that night. Just as I got home after buying groceries, I saw her sitting on the sofa with an unpleasant expression. I was surprised for a moment and quickly regained my expressionless face. Before I could speak, she said coldly, "What do you mean by that message you sent?" "Just what it says," I replied indifferently. Ava seemed to be angrily amused and said, dismissively, "Why are you angry?" "Because I didn't stay with you. Is it really necessary? Daniel, since when have you become so petty?" The so-called generosity in the past was just a pretense of mine. Her abnormal concern and preference for James almost drove me crazy with jealousy. But I loved her, tolerated her, and chose to believe in her. What did she do in return? She never considered my feelings and hurt me again and again. But then again, I was just a substitute. How could she possibly fall in love with a substitute? Now that the real person had come back, I took the initiative to step back and left myself a little bit of dignity. I said calmly, I'm not angry. Divorce is something I've thought about carefully, and I'm not discussing it with you. That's it. Let's part ways amicably. I didn't think Ava would disagree with the divorce. After all, she had waited for the person in her heart, and there was no reason for her to keep pestering me. Moreover, the disgust in her eyes was almost overflowing. Hearing this, Ava was stunned for a moment and looked incredulous. Are you serious? I nodded without saying anything. She was stunned for a moment and then frowned. Daniel, is this really interesting? Just because of such a trivial matter, you're making a fuss with me. Are you crazy? I don't have time to play with you. James is still waiting for me in the hospital. I didn't expect that she actually thought I was throwing a tantrum. What kind of person did she think I was in her heart? At this moment, my face also darkened, and I said seriously, after the divorce, you can go back to James immediately. Ava, I'm seriously telling you, let's get a divorce. Seeing that I wasn't joking, Ava's expression showed a moment of panic. She sneered and said, fine, you'd better be serious. Don't regret it later if you know you're wrong now, and apologize to me properly. I won't blame you. Hearing this, I felt both a bit amused and a bit sad. How humble my love for her had been in the past, that even at this moment she could still say such things. I looked at her quietly without saying a word. At this moment, silence was more powerful than words, and Ava's face became even uglier. After a long silence, she suddenly laughed and said disdainfully, fine, Daniel, you've really grown some guts. I agree to the divorce. I've disliked you for a long time. Do you really think I can't bear to part with you? Before she could finish speaking, the ringing of her phone interrupted her. Ava took a look and immediately answered it. Her tone immediately became gentle. James, what's wrong? Ava, haven't you made it clear to Daniel yet? Don't let him misunderstand. I can't make it clear to him. After a pause, Ava changed the subject. James, did something happen that made you call me at this time? James chuckled. No, I'm just worried about you, and I miss you. Then I'll come back right away. The moment she answered the phone, I thought I would still feel very sad. But at this moment I felt nothing. I was as calm as a stagnant pool of water, and there was no more love left. After hanging up the phone, Ava frowned and looked at me, her eyes full of indescribable impatience. She said gloomily, let's handle the formalities when we find the time. I don't have time now. Let's talk about it after James recovers. I frowned and said, no, it has to be done as soon as possible. Since some things have been decided, it's better to get them over with quickly to avoid any unforeseen problems. Are you really in such a hurry? Daniel, are you crazy? I said, I don't have time. If anything happens to James, can you take responsibility? I'm too lazy to talk nonsense with you. With that, she seemed to be running away in a hurry and left the house. Looking at her almost flustered back, I sighed. Since that was the case, I would wait a few more days. Anyway, the divorce was definitely going to happen. After resigning from my job, I was idle at home every day. I also tried to pick up the paintbrush, but unfortunately, my hand couldn't stand it after just a few strokes, so I had to give up. My parents also called to ask about my recent situation. To keep them from worrying, I only told them about the divorce. They didn't have a high level of education and couldn't accept divorce in their bones. But after learning that I wasn't happy, they agreed without hesitation. Citation told me that if I was feeling down, I could go back to my hometown to relax. Between Ava and me, it could be said that I was overreaching. She came from a well-educated family with a wealthy background. She had everything she wanted since she was a child, and it took me more than 10 years to become a jewelry designer and stand by her side. Therefore, her parents didn't think highly of me. I'm afraid many people didn't either. Our divorce would probably be a cause for celebration for everyone. After thinking it over for a few days, I decided that after the divorce, I would go back to my hometown to accompany my parents and also give myself some time to think calmly about the future. However, since the last unpleasant encounter with Ava, she hadn't come back home and hadn't contacted me about the divorce either. Was James' hand injury really that serious? Was it really necessary to stay in the hospital for so long? Of course not, but I wouldn't be so narcissistic as to think that Ava was stalling for time and didn't want to get a divorce. I guessed that she was just too busy with important things, and with her beloved by her side, she naturally forgot about other things. I didn't want to delay any longer and immediately called her, but it wasn't her who answered the phone. James said lazily, "Is that Daniel? Ava is taking a shower and can't answer the phone right now. Just tell me if you have anything to say." If it had been me in the past, hearing these words would have been extremely sad, but at the moment, I was very calm. It was as if the person he was talking about wasn't my wife but a stranger. I said indifferently, "Then ask her when she has time to go through the divorce formalities with me." As soon as I finished speaking, Ava's voice came over. "Daniel, what are you rushing for? I'm not going to refuse to divorce you. Is it really necessary to call specifically?" Don't tell me you're regretting it, I said before she could finish. I interrupted impatiently. How long has it been? If you still don't go through the process with me, I'll hire a lawyer. There was a moment of silence on the other end. Then come over now. I'll send you the address. Can't we just go to the Civil Affairs Bureau directly if you want to get it over with quickly? Come over first. I agreed rather speechlessly, although I didn't understand her actions. As long as I could get a divorce, I didn't care. The address Ava sent was the house her parents gave her. The only time I went there was on the day we got our marriage certificate, but she should have forgotten about it. Otherwise, she wouldn't have sent the address to me. After all, she once said that that place was the confidence given to her by her parents and her private space, and no one could enter it casually. So, in the 8 years of our marriage, I had only been to this place once. When I saw James here, I felt a mixture of expected and unexpected emotions, but that was all. James had a triumphant smile on his lips and said meaningfully, "Daniel, you're her, ... We don't get excited later. Talk to Ava properly." How could it have come to the point of divorce? Ava was sitting on the sofa in the living room and sneered. Just get a divorce then. Don't think too highly of yourself. I shrugged and said indifferently, I'm here for the divorce anyway. Can you go to the Civil Affairs Bureau with me now? Unexpectedly, when she heard this, she became even angrier. Daniel, what on earth are you going crazy about? Just because I didn't stay with you while you were in the hospital. Such a trivial matter. Is it really worth getting a divorce over? James and I grew up together. Isn't it only natural for me to take care of him? Or is it because you can't continue your work in jewelry design? What does that have to do with me? If it's because of this, I can introduce you to expert doctors. For treatment, James chimed in. Yeah, Daniel, that's enough. Ava is just like my sister. There's nothing between us at all. Don't misunderstand. After he finished speaking, Ava frowned but didn't say anything. I found it rather amusing. What kind of act was this? I said unhurriedly. It has nothing to do with me what you two are like. There's no need to explain to me. I'm here to get a divorce. Have you finished talking? If so, let's go through the formalities. Ava stared at me for a while and gritted her teeth, saying, Don't regret it after we get divorced. You can rest assured about that. It's absolutely impossible. Upon hearing this, her face turned pale and then looked very ugly. But I didn't understand. After the divorce, wouldn't they be able to get married and be happily together? I shook my head, wondering what they were up to like this, and I was too lazy to think about it anymore. The formalities were quickly completed. After going through the 30-day divorce cooling-off period, I received the divorce certificate. Holding this booklet that was the same size as the marriage certificate, I felt extremely elated. Perhaps seeing me like this, Ava seemed a bit hurt and demanded, Are you really that happy? What else? Why do you have to divorce me? I said indifferently, If you had been a substitute for 8 years, you would probably have made the same decision. As I did, as soon as I finished speaking, her face instantly turned as pale as paper. Ava was extremely flustered and hurriedly asked, Who told you that? I smiled and said, Oh sweetheart, James. Ava suddenly understood and said eagerly, So this is the reason why you want to divorce me. Daniel, you've misunderstood. At first, I regarded you as, but later, I definitely didn't have such thoughts. It doesn't matter whether you had those thoughts or not. Let's part ways amicably. After saying that, I left without looking back. Ava stood there in a daze, seemingly not having reacted yet, and was still calling my name. The ticket to go back to my hometown had already been bought. After packing my luggage, I rushed to the airport without delay. Looking at the blue sky and white clouds outside the window, I felt an unprecedented sense of relief. After a few hours' journey, I finally returned to the place where I was born and raised. My mother prepared a sumptuous meal, like a Manchurian imperial feast, and my father was waiting for me at the door. A warm current welled up in my heart, and I smiled from the bottom of my heart. At the dining table, they thoughtfully didn't ask too many questions, and we happily finished the meal. After the meal, I was chatting with my parents when we were having a good time. My phone rang. It was a call from Ava. I was a bit annoyed that I had forgotten to block her number. I hung up directly. Before I could block her number, she called. Again, afraid that my parents would worry, I got up, distanced myself from them, and answered the call. Daniel, where have you gone? Does it have anything to do with you? Ava said in a trembling voice. Daniel, I'm sorry. I admit that at first, I had the idea of taking you as James, but after getting to know you, I found that you are completely different from him. As for that recording, I was just joking with him. It's not my true thoughts. Don't take it to heart. I had a big fight with James and won't have any more contact with him. You can rest assured. She rattled on about a lot of things. I just felt annoyed and said in a deep voice, Ava, there's really no need for you to explain to me. I don't care. Don't forget that we're already divorced. Don't contact me again in the future. No, Daniel, I know you're blaming me for not asking the doctor to operate on you first. I was wrong about that. I was too impulsive at that time. All I could think about was that if something happened to his hand, the design world would lose. A rising star. Ava's voice became lower and lower, but I felt more and more like laughing. I sneered and said, "So you made a decision that you thought was very right. What does it mean by apologizing to me now?" She said humbly, "I was wrong. I'm sorry. When I saw those jewels you designed for me in the jewelry box, I regretted it." Daniel, your talent shouldn't be buried. You're just sorry that no one will design for you anymore, not sorry for my talent. Ava shouted anxiously. No, Daniel, I thought about how high-spirited you were when you were doing the design in the past. When you were working on your own designs, there was a light in your eyes. I know you really like jewelry design, and I also know you're very talented. Daniel, let me take you abroad for treatment. I've consulted. If it's treated properly, there's still a possibility of recovery. I smiled faintly, feeling it was rather ironic. She understood my love for design, yet she said those hurtful words when I was at my most frustrated. No need, Ava. All I need is for you to stay out of my life. After saying that, I hung up the phone directly and then immediately blocked her number. I never want to see this person again, and I don't want to have the slightest connection with her. Of course, I have also thought about treatment. I won't give up on jewelry design. It's the career I love. Planning to accompany my parents for a while longer, I will go abroad to receive better treatment. As for Ava, I'll just consider these past few years as wasted time, like feeding the dog after getting along for a few days. My parents aren't stupid. They could tell something was off with my state, but since I didn't say anything, they didn't ask either. I thought about it. This was a big thing, and I still had to talk to them about it. So, I found a time and had a heart-to-heart talk with them. After listening to me, they scolded me for being stupid on the surface. But in fact, they felt extremely sorry for me and also supported my plan to go abroad for treatment. I hugged my parents tightly. Many emotions welled up in my heart, and more than anything else, it was a feeling of happiness. Only they would feel sorry for me. However, what I didn't expect was that Ava actually found her way to my hometown. At first, she disliked my hometown for being remote and shabby and refused to come no matter what. It was my parents who traveled all the way to our city. Now that she was willing to condescend to come here, I was indeed a bit surprised. But, more than that, I was annoyed. Why was she still pestering me, even though we were divorced? After my parents learned about our situation, they didn't have a good expression towards Ava, but she wore a flattering smile on her face. No matter how cold they were, she still smiled. Moreover, she just wouldn't leave. No matter how we tried to drive her away, she was as thick-skinned as the city wall. As the saying goes, you don't hit a smiling person. Besides, my parents are simple people. They didn't know how to react to her like this, so we just awkwardly stayed in the same room. I frowned tightly and pulled her to the door, saying speechlessly, "What are you doing here? How many times do I have to repeat that we're already divorced? Can you stop bothering me?" Upon hearing this, Ava showed a bitter smile. "Daniel, I said I would take you abroad for treatment. I know you're still angry, but the person I love is you. I just hope you don't misunderstand. I want you to be able to recover to how you were before." This was probably the funniest joke I had heard this year. Love me? Was her love about hurting me? Then she really loved me. I said in disgust, "I'm not angry. I divorced you because I don't love you anymore. I don't think this marriage needs to continue. It's not that I'm throwing a tantrum, as you think." Ava's expression changed slightly, and there was deep sadness in her eyes. She said in a low voice, "Don't say that, Daniel. I know I was wrong. Can you give me one more chance to make up for it, please?" My patience was completely worn out, and I said harshly, "No, Ava, can't you understand what I'm saying? Can you stop bothering me, and don't bother my parents either? Come abroad with me," Ava said through gritted teeth. I was so angry that I laughed. Seeing that she wouldn't listen to reason, I simply stopped talking. Anyway, she would leave on her own in a few days when she couldn't stand it anymore, unexpectedly. After a few days passed, Ava still showed no sign of leaving. Instead, she cooked and did the housework every day. As a young lady who had never done any housework before, her work was naturally not very good. Looking at the burnt dishes on the table, Ava said a bit awkwardly, "Daniel, Mom and Dad, I'm not very good at this, but don't worry, I can learn." My parents' eyes darted between us, and then they sighed and left the dining table. Ava's expression became very disappointed, and she said dejectedly, "I'm sorry, I'm so stupid." It was rather surprising for someone who was always proud, highly educated, and successful in her career to say such words. After all, there wasn't much that she would take seriously. Only when facing James would she be a bit gentler. I said coldly, "Ava, that's enough. You can leave now." Ava said stubbornly, "No, if you don't come abroad with me, I'll stay here all the time." She was probably thinking that I was worried she would bother my parents and in the end would compromise for their sake, but I had already planned in my mind to let my parents go on a trip and leave home temporarily. In this way, Ava wouldn't make a fool of herself anymore. I had to go with Ava before I could discuss it with my parents. Ava carried out my plan first and arranged for my parents to go on a trip. She said it was a trip, but I wasn't sure if that was really the case. When I heard the news, I felt a rush of anger. I asked her furiously, Ava, what do you mean? Why can't I get through to their phones? Where did you take my parents? Ava smiled bitterly and said, Mom and Dad are fine. They also want you to go abroad for treatment. I just told a little white lie. Daniel, it's okay if you won't forgive me, but you can't delay the treatment of your hand any longer. I pinched the bridge of my nose, seething with anger, and scolded, who gave you the right to make decisions for me? Ava, are you out of your mind? When did I say I wouldn't get treated? I just don't want to have anything to do with you anymore. I'm begging you, stay out of my life. Upon hearing this, Ava was taken aback and asked sadly, do you hate me that much? I frowned and said, yes, I hate you. Now, if you keep pestering me and bothering me and my parents, I'll hate you even more. Ava looked stunned, as if she was extremely heartbroken. She said slowly, don't worry, Mom and Dad are okay. If you want to hate me, go ahead. Daniel, come abroad with me. I truly hope your hand can recover. If you don't want to, you might not be able to contact Mom and Dad for a long time. I stared at her for a while, seeing her determined look of not giving up until she achieved her goal. I could only compromise and say, fine, I'll go abroad with you for treatment. So we went back to our former home first. She said she needed to pack some things. When we got there, I found out what she was going to pack. It turned out to be the jewels I had designed for her. I sneered and said, they're not as good as the ones designed by James. Why don't you, ... Ava's face paled a bit, and she I won't throw them away. The ones you designed are the best. I laughed coldly and didn't say anything more. Ding ding ding. The doorbell rang urgently, and the person ringing it seemed to have something extremely urgent. I'll go open the door, Ava said dejectedly. As soon as she opened the door, James said excitedly, Ava, you're finally back. Where have you been these days? I was going crazy with worry when I couldn't find you. When he saw me, he gave me a provocative smile, and his expression quickly changed to one of concern. I raised my eyebrows, finding it a bit amusing, and felt in the mood to watch the drama unfold. Ava said in a cold tone, what are you doing here? James was taken aback, looking a bit embarrassed. Ava, what are you saying? I was really worried. When I couldn't reach you, as soon as I knew you were back, I came to see you right away. Didn't I make myself clear enough? James, you make me sick. Disappear from my sight immediately, and don't show up in front of me again in the future. Ava's voice was completely devoid of warmth, and she was like a different person from the one who used to be gentle and considerate towards him. James's expression was very ugly. It was no wonder he reacted like that. Even I was quite surprised. He looked at Ava in disbelief, as if trying to figure out if what she said was true. The nurse asked me where my family member was, but I couldn't answer because my wife was accompanying another man. Afterwards, James said, don't be silly, we're the most suitable for each other. As soon as he finished speaking, Ava slapped him directly and shouted, shut up, what right do you have to talk about him? If it weren't for him, it would be your hand that's useless now. I'm warning you, disappear from my sight. Otherwise, I'll make sure you can't stay in the design industry. After saying that, James shut up. He gave me a hateful look for a while and then left reluctantly. After he left, Ava was a bit nervous and said cautiously, Daniel, don't listen to his nonsense. Once you're cured, you'll definitely be better. Than him, I was too lazy to pay attention to her. I randomly opened a little game on my phone and started playing it on my own. Ava's eyes immediately turned red, and she said in a soft voice, Daniel, take a rest for a while. We'll deal with some things and go abroad in a few days. I ignored her. She covered her face in pain and said humbly, Daniel, don't ignore me. Talk to me, even just a word. I said expressionlessly, stay away from me. Ava burst into tears, constantly repeating, I'm sorry, but I felt nothing inside. I calmly continued playing with my phone. After leaving my hometown, she gave me the itinerary of my parents, and I managed to get in touch with them. I also asked them to go to my aunt's house and stay there for a few days. I had made all the arrangements. My aunt's son is a policeman, with the People's Police around, so I could feel a bit more at ease. I planned to go abroad on my own at an appropriate time. The time, in any case, I couldn't get entangled with Ava anymore. While Ava wasn't at home, I planned to leave, but before I could go out, I received a call from the police. It turned out that Ava had hired someone to harm James, and the members of James's family weren't ones to be bullied easily. They called the police immediately. Logically speaking, she wasn't so stupid as to directly harm someone. It was said that she was so consumed by hatred for James that she lost her mind. Both Ava's family and James's family were wealthy and powerful. I guessed that this matter wouldn't be easily resolved, and Ava would probably have to stay in custody for a while. She asked to see me several times, but I refused every single time. I got everything ready in a short period and quickly boarded a plane bound for abroad. Later, my hand recovered successfully, and I became a renowned jewelry designer. As for the news about Ava and James, I never heard anything more about them, and these two people gradually faded from my memory. For the rest of my life, I will only have happiness and joy.